be facilitating the session with my colleague Lina, and we want to keep it very informal in a way where it's more discussions. Our goal is to, having had the session in the morning where we heard from all the presentations, what the research is showing us. For us as the NCPC, as UNIDO, and even as the DTIC and the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy, I think our role here is to understand what do we then do going forward to support you as women in growing and developing in this energy and green economy space. So I would like to open up the session maybe with a question that we didn't get to look at in the previous, in the morning session. It's around the issue of business opportunities or development in the space of energy. Winnie mentioned how within their department they've got some prescription that says if we have projects for rural electrification, for example, as you mentioned, they will prescribe that a certain portion of that work needs to go to women. And my question to Winnie is, how do we, within the restrictions and the framework of the Public Procurement Act and all of that, how do we still, within those boundaries, advance and even maybe prioritize women who bid for work in the space of energy? Is there positive discriminatory options that we can employ to fast track and open up the market for more women to win this project in the space? Let me just get the spray. Don't mind, I'll walk on it. And yeah. Yes, I want you to respond. Do you want to respond? Just on tips on how did the department, for example, ensured that the portion that you intended that out of this rural electrification program, the certain portion will go towards women, to children, and people living with disability. How did you enforce that, and what can we do? I'm asking this from the space of the NCPC, where we partner with consultants to deliver some of the work, and at the moment we follow the general rule of procurement. You open up to the market, and whoever responds. I think the issue of gender is maybe covered in the BEE scoring portion of the project. My question is beyond that. Is there something that we can do to include more women in the space?
It's a difficult one, my sister, because as you said, we, even if we say so, we still work under the prescripts of the procurement and everything. But what we have done with in regard to that, we sat down with, for example, the program managers of from the department, and also like ESCO, and sat down, how do we then make sure that from what we are giving you, what is you can ensure that you give that portion to women and the other designated groups. So we agreed and even develop a template so that they can, at the end, each and every quarter, they must report back to us. But compliance is something else. But what we have also done is, as a department, thought we at least while waiting for that compliance or trying, because some of the things are beyond us. Once the money is there at ESCOM and municipalities, we are not able to dictate to them to say do this and don't do that. We make sure that we encourage women to go to the municipality to buy the DORA and the gazette, or check with the National Treasury Gazette, which municipalities are allocated with the money for that particular year, and ESCOM, where are they focusing, so that they can know where to go and check when they advertise. They must go and apply. By that, at least they will know. You know that when you have applied together with anyone else, and then you meet all the necessary requirements, then they will be able, unlike when you say, they are not there, they are not applying because they don't know. The other thing that when they advertise it, I don't know from the municipalities and ESCOM, what they do is there's parting of the terms of references, where they will say that for if the service provider or the uh, applicant is a woman, or from the previously disadvantaged group, then you get 5% or something like that, just to make sure that at least encourage the service providers to say that even if in a company they don't have women, they are encouraged to add more women as shareholders, so that they can add more points to get the contract. So I think we can start the discussion from there. But compliance, I can tell you that it's another thing.
Thank you for that. I think maybe before we proceed, since we are quite a small team, it would be good if we start knowing who we are, a bit of background, so that when we engage, we have a reference point of getting to understand our personal journeys, our personal stories. We've got about 8. Oh, that's my phone. We have 7 delegates online, so excluding myself, and it's 6, I would say. No, myself and Constance. There's few people online, so let's get to know one another. I'm gonna start with our online delegation. You can unmute yourself. Just introduce yourself. Few words about your journey in the energy space, and if you will, very, very, very briefly, highlight some of the highlights of your career, and maybe even some of the challenges you've encountered as you advance yourself in this field. Or rather, let me direct this a little bit. I'm just going to call out names, and you can unmute your mic and introduce yourself. Let me start with me to lay the foundation. My name is Manatari Maja, and I am part of the project team at the NCPC. Within the NCPC, you would know by now that we deal with various pillars around resource efficiency. I specifically focus on our energy portfolio, and I've been part of the Industrial Energy Efficiency Project since joining the NCPC in October of 2013. So it's been quite a while that I've been in this journey. Prior to that, I have a chemical engineering background. Prior to joining the NCPC, I worked in industry, in the manufacturing sector, production sector, and I had a bit of time in corporate, in the medical industry, where I was doing sales and marketing related activities. And just my personal story, I think for me, being where I am today took a bit of pushing and demanding that I follow what was deemed not the norm at the time. In South Africa, particularly, or what I've been exposed to, there seems to be a very linear perception of what an engineer should do, or if you do this degree, this is what you should do. So from very early on, when I finished school, there was this unwritten understanding that you've studied this degree, you're going to work in a production facility and do this job. And fortunately for me, that early on, I got exposed to a variety of options that engineers have. And I'm very fortunate that I had that exposure. And part of it came when I had an opportunity to study abroad, and I got to learn that engineers work in different fields. Our skill set can be applied to areas that are deemed traditionally not for engineers. I saw engineers working in banks. I saw examples of engineers working in the medical industry, in government, in policy making. So that very early on, I mean, I was in my 20s, 22, 23. So I got that exposure then, and it made me now start questioning, okay, suppose I don't have limitations. Of course, to a certain degree. I can't be an engineer and demand that I become a medical doctor and operate on somebody. So it's always within context, right? Um, it made me question, okay, now with this skill set, remember, a lot of the times the education that we get, it empowers us with certain skills. If you're doing engineering degree, you know that you'll be trained to use your mind to analyze, to spot trends, there's certain skills that can be applied across different job roles. So it made me wanna question, what do I want to do outside of what I, and the field of sustainability just I was interested in that. And it wasn't easy making that transition from what I was traditionally doing. I got a lot of questions. Why do you want to do this? Why don't you just stick to being a process engineer or a production engineer? Um, so what I did at the time that worked for me, and I'm gonna cut it short so I give you guys also a chance. What worked for me at the time was to show that I can still develop in this field without negatively impacting the role that I was hired for. And I spotted people within the organization that were doing roles that I aspired to be in. So in one company where I worked, I became closer with the people that were working in the environmental health and safety division. And after I finished my shift, I was working shift. So after finishing my shift, if they have time, I'll go and sit with them and understand, what are you doing? And that was not taking away from what I was, responsible for under my employment contract. And that's how I got to learn about the field of environmental sustainability, and until where I then applied for jobs that were focusing just on that. So I would say that's one barrier that I had to overcome, and that's how I went about it, just to access the opportunities to be in this field. Okay, so that's a little bit of my story. Um, I am going to I'm going to start with my colleague, Faith, who I love very much, and I'm so proud of her work and the impact that she's made in this sector. So, Faith, if you can hear me, can you do a short introduction and just a little bit of your journey from where you started and where you are at the moment?
Hi everyone. And when you got me because I was never ready to speak. So, but yeah. So the long and short of it is that I just started like everybody else, study engineering, work as an EIT, obviously. But I have kind of always known that my journey is different. I didn't want to be a typical electrical engineer. And my focus has always been on energy efficiency, even though at the time I couldn't quite articulate it, but I knew that I wanted to challenge and change things for better in terms of efficiencies in the plants and wherever I worked. But I've worked basically as an energy engineer, and I've worked as a project manager in renewables. And I've worked at NCPC for 10 years on the Industrial Energy Efficiency Program. And I think that really was the turning point of my journey, because there I was not just stuck in one plant, but I was exposed to different plants, different industries, meeting different people and different challenges, of course. And anytime you are exposed and challenged in different directions, growth is bound to take place. And I think that's really what happened to me. And I grew tremendously. I became a trainer. Whenever there was a training course, of course, we could train for free. I took that up and I attended every training, a refresher, expert level, you name it, I've done it. And I got to meet a lot of people, interacted with other women, but generally with other experts, male, female, South African, international. And yeah, I think it was a very interesting journey. But the long and short of it is that I was a typical industry girl with aspirations to be in corporate. And that experience serves me well today because I currently head the energy and climate change. The group I'm the group the head for climate change in Goldfields, where I assist with developing a strategy. And of course, we have to implement the strategy, and that's the challenging part. But the other challenging part is that we've got 9.5 mines or 10 mines, depending on how you want to look at it, because some of our mines are co-owned. But yeah, that is in 10 different, in 10 mines in 5 different countries. So you can imagine the regional nuances. And also we own both underground and open cast mines. So, it's the challenges are, there's never a dull moment. But it's quite interesting in that I get to, on a technical level, interact with the energy managers, but also on a higher management level, I get to present ideas, strategies to the board as well. So for me, that's been a leap that I've had to make and grow, obviously. But I'd say the long and short of it is that every bit of work that I've ever been given an opportunity to do has led me to this point. But I also realized that it gets harder for women. It's never easy, whether you're an industry girl or corporate girl, it doesn't matter. And somebody the other day asked me, do you ever forget that you're a woman? I suppose in my early years, I'd forget because I was trying so hard to be like the men and boys so that I could fit in. But these days, no, I don't. In fact, I like that I'm a woman and I'm very intentional about it. I have a softer side, which I appreciate, and I hope everybody else appreciates. And I believe I bring something to the table and a different approach and take on things. And for me, that shouldn't even matter because my contribution is my contribution. And as long as I contribute to the bigger um, picture, the bigger goal of the organization, and the organization is very big on ESG, it's very big on decarbonization, which is what I heard. It's very big on climate change as well. And I think as long as I make my mark and drive that, shouldn't matter whether I'm a male or female. But of course, I'm a female, so I'm hoping that one day it won't be because I'm a female or I'm treated differently because of my female. I hope it's just gonna be because I I qualify, and I'm hoping that me waking up, doing what I do, tackling challenges, enjoying what I do, is inspiring somebody. And I'm hoping that that person will say, you know what, if she could do it, I'll do it. I want to have a career in climate change. I want to have a career in energy. I want to have a career in decarbonization. And I've never been an entrepreneur because I believe that, present a set of challenges. But in this space, I hope that we see a lot more of those female entrepreneurs because I used to think there were a lot of them. But the higher I go, the more I realize that we still need a lot of female entrepreneurs. We need consulting firms that are headed by females. We need business owners that happen to be female who are ready to tackle climate change issues. Of course, they're there, and I'm sure they're brilliant, and I've worked with some of them. They're skilled, they're ready for the task, but they just, still very few of them. And I think the environment, we need to still create a conducive environment for growth for women, support. Earlier on, Sashay mentioned mentorship. We need that absolutely. And if somebody creates another network for women, by all means, I'll be able to join there. But of course, we can't work in silos. But I think support, mentorship is something that is still required. But yeah, for me, NCPC has really helped, challenged me, groomed me to a certain degree, and also connected me with like-minded women. So I don't know if I answered your question or if you have any specific questions, but that's just the long and short of my journey. Thanks, Wana.
Thank you, Faye. Now we're going to come back later for questions and interaction, but that was a beautiful summary of your journey. Moving on, let me just open the list for delegates.
Ask Mahlati. Mahlati, I don't know if it says you're on hold, so I don't know if you are online. If you can hear me, please unmute and introduce yourself. It seems like you're sitting with other people. It's Mahlati and I presume Andile. Any one of you can take the stage. If it's okay. Okay, seems like they're not online. Peter, can you go next? Peter, can you hear me? Okay, while Peter is getting ready, let me take it to the floor and just do the round of introductions in the room, starting with our colleagues from the DMRE.
Thank you very much. My name is Masafako Sohoa. I'm in the DMRE, in the Gender Mainstreaming and Transformation Unit that falls under Program and Projects Management Office, Chief Directorate. I joined the DMRE in 2017 as the Deputy Director in the outreach programs. And we were specifically looking at issues of youth, issues of women empowerment and disability. So I've been there for about 4 years. And then as we merged as Department of Energy and Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, then I actually joined the Gender Mainstreaming and Transformation. I'm still fairly new in the unit, specializing in the issue of mining. However, before I joined the DMRE, I've been with the Gender Commission for 10 years, focusing on policy and research. And we were actually playing a role. The commission itself, it's responsible for promoting, protecting, and monitoring and evaluating of gender equality and transformation in the country. So as part of the mandate, we were also looking at the international instruments. That's where we can also monitor how, as a country, are we complying with the treaties and the covenants and all the international and regional treaties that we are signatories to. So in that at that time, I was focusing much on policy and research, so which gave me more interest and understanding of gender issues in different areas, because we were not actually focusing on one area. We will do research on gender mainstreaming in the mining sector, gender mainstreaming in education, gender mainstreaming in the health department. So in the health sector or different sectors, gender mainstreaming with land. So that in itself, as we were doing issues of gender mainstreaming and mining sector, then I start to realize that this is one sector that is male dominated, and we really need to work on issues of gender mainstreaming and mining. However, as I joined the work together with Winnie and Miss Marawa in the energy sector, I start to realize that you cannot fully separate mining from energy, because within the value chain of mining, there is a need for energy, and within energy, there is some of the resources that we mine, like your coal. So also realizing that gender mainstreaming in energy and gender mainstreaming in mining, what women experience or issues of gender are particularly the same. So the only difference is the sector, but all the issues of your employment equity, issues of procurement, issues of ownership, issues of capacity building, they all are more or less the same. So I'm also happy because the research that was presented earlier on gave the picture that we actually agree with the research, and I think what the outcomes and the recommendation of research, some of them they are already implemented in the energy strategy. We are also currently developing the mining with the wager strategy in mining, which will also assist in trying to regulate some of the things that we are doing in the mining. But all I can say is that the energy strategy is really helping, because now it's giving the direction in terms of how the sector should go about in mainstreaming gender. And as the overseeing department, we will have the direction. We also have a direction in terms of what we need to know in the sector in terms of the experiences or the mainstreaming of gender in the sector as a whole. So I can say I'm happy to be here. I'm still learning in the area of energy, but I can see it's as interesting as mining. Thank you.
Thank you, Masifako. Winnie feels like you already know her, and since she spoke in the morning. So, okay, she would like me to pass the mic to Elena.
Hello, everyone. Really happy to be here. I actually traveled a long way to come. I'm from UNIDO headquarters in Vienna, and I started there just a year ago. Before that, I was for more than 10 years at the utility sector at energy supplier and distribution company in Bulgaria. So when I joined, I have a legal background. I'm a lawyer. And I worked a couple of years before joining the utility. And when I took this decision, a lot of my friends told me I'm crazy because it's typical male-dominated business. And I was like, young mother, blonde lawyer, what I'm going to do there. But it worked gradually and quite well. I was at the beginning, I was only working as a legal advisor, and then gradually I grew up in my career and became head of a division of 20 people. So I think that when you act as a professional, when you actually are valued for your contribution, for your knowledge, for your experience, there's always a way for a company to appreciate your achievements and give you a higher and higher position. But at the same time, I was still talking even with my bosses, with my superior, what can we do to support women in the company? Because obviously many of them are having different sort of barriers, starting from like lack of access to kindergarten for the kids, or enough time to work full time. So we were starting to work on like a program to how to support women, and even with some small steps, we saw that there's a huge improvement in the engagement. And later on, when I moved to Austria, I decided that I would like to continue my gender dedicated work apart from everything that I was doing. And I joined as a volunteer in the Global Women Energy Transition Network. And I would forward the contacts to Petro, and I would be happy if she shared them with you, because it's really a great network. It attracts women globally, both young professionals at the beginning of their career, but also women that are quite advanced, and they facilitate a mentoring program. And I was checking their website yesterday. I saw they have nothing about energy efficiency. So I would come back to them when I go back and propose to do something on energy efficiency, because energy transition is not only about renewables and hydrogen and storage and clean cooking. It's also about the energy efficiency, especially industrial energy efficiency is a very important aspect of the energy transition. So we are having, so this network provides, besides the mentoring program, they have a lot of, they upload a lot of training materials. They organize webinars. And I also remember that once I think they had a discussion with the HR specialist, and she was telling from her perspective how women and men perform and compete for a position. And one of the biggest takeaways I remember there was that women are very shy when they're asking for a pay. And usually, even in Austria, there's still like 20% gap in the payment between women and men at the same position. But it's not only due to the biases and in this gender disbalance, but also because women not always say what they want, ask for their worth. And I think that also these programs and mentorship helps women to, gain more confidence, like network with other women and see that success is possible everywhere, and there's no reason for us, being less confident than men or underestimates everything that we have achieved. So I would be happy to hear your stories, and looking forward to some interesting inputs. And please, if you have some suggestions about what UNIDO or NCPC or DMRE and DTIC could do to support women in South Africa or even in the region, that would be very helpful as a takeaway, because we could build our next program and projects around this gender topic as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And just you sharing that story of your background, you can see that, I think to my point earlier, you don't necessarily need to have one type of degree to participate in this energy field. You can come from a social science background. We need people who are doing the studies around gender. Training as a social scientist could be an asset. Elena is trained as a lawyer, and somehow the skills that she has had has empowered her to still participate in this field. I think sometimes we think that to be active in this energy space, you must have an engineering degree, but it's not only engineers that make the sector work, or it's not only engineers that build this sector. There's a diversity of skills, a diversity of background that is needed. So I think I'm saying that to encourage people that are coming from non-engineer or non-technical background, to say that there is still room for you to participate in this field. It's a matter of identifying what your niche is, looking at your background, your skills, what your interest is, and there'll always be an intersection between energy issues. And I can't think of any, except maybe for the arts. To some degree, maybe the arts. I can't think of any background that cannot find its way into the energy space. Okay. I have Tiamo. Okay, over to you, Tiamo.
Good day, everyone. So my name is Tiamo Mokhale, and so my journey started as an intern. I was in the oil and energy sector at Total Energies Marketing South Africa, and I was training as an environmental practitioner responsible for managing environmental impacts caused by the energy operation activities. So I recently joined the Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development as an environmental officer. So I'm part of the team that's responsible for coordinating and supporting the work that's done by the NCPC. So I'm quite new. I just started this month, and I'm here to learn more about the program and the projects that are being done. So, but then I will just say that as a woman, I am proud so far of how far I've made it and the opportunities that I've been given. And I'm really looking forward to learning from each and every one of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiamo, and I look forward to interacting with you now that you're going to be part of the NCPC. All right. Lucia?
Hi everyone. My name is Lucia Mota. I have a chemical engineering background. My journey starts as back then in 2015 when I was also a trainee in a chemical producing company. I did process planning. And then I remember there was a consultant that were looking at water efficiency and water cleaning in the company. And the company had, it was not good. And I remember after a year of working there as a trainee, I then decided to do my master's because I was so interested in waste to energy research. Basically renewable energy. I was intrigued about reading about it and how it's going to really be the big thing in the energy sector with ESCOM having its issues. So then I did my master's. My master's was on implementing biogas digesters in rural areas for farmers who had waste, and they can use that to produce biogas and use them in their households and so forth. That was the best 2 years of my life. I really enjoyed going to the communities and talking to these old ladies who had the digester. The digester had issues, and as a technical person, we diagnosed the digester. I remember this lady was like, "Yo, tonight I'm gonna cook my SAM because now I have this gas that I would just use my gas stove." And then she was like, "Please stay over. I'm gonna cook SAM for you guys." And it was in the Eastern Cape, and there were some people who were still skeptical about the technology and actually adopting it. And it was our responsibilities, because at that time I was still a student. So we're tasked to actually do some training to the community members and just introduce this new technology that is in the market. And unfortunately, after 2 years, I finished my master's, and then I had to then go back to hunting for employment or opportunities. And it was quite frustrating because I wanted to be so much in the energy space. I wanted to do this green economy, be part of projects which are aligned with that. But then at the time, I guess maybe my strategy of looking for opportunities was not good, I guess. And then I just started applying, and then there was an opportunity at CSIR under the bioprocessing group. There, I learned so much because now I worked with microbiologists, and I was a pure chemical engineer. I remember them taking me around the labs and me having to plate some plates and working with microscopes. I was like, wow, this is so interesting that, from one field you can just dive into another field and, learn so much. And then after that, it was a year. And then I had to proceed into advanced agro-processing to be a process technologist, which is currently what I'm doing. And in this position, I work with small businesses, but in the agro-processing space. So you have traditional healers who have this plant perhaps they've been using for many years, but now we help them with product and process development for them to have this product that is marketable. I have been enjoying it, but when I saw actually this conference, I don't know, something was like, just go to the conference, because I guess my love for energy is still there, even though I have kind of shifted from the space. So I thought, let me just come to there NCPC conference and then just see if there's any networking or some information that I can get. You know, maybe there are some opportunities that I can explore in the long run, because I would really love to go back to green economy and renewable energy. So yes, that is my story. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lucia. The conference is calling you home, home to the green economy space. We actually at the NCPC, we launched the biogas program. So having that background, you could end up being one of the consultants, trainers, experts helping us roll out biogas projects in industry. We launched it during the COVID years. The training material was developed during that time. And we had the first class of biogas experts finish their expert training programs just late last year. So I'm going to be on your case since we are colleagues. The next intake of training, you have to be one of our biogas experts. Thank you. All right, Chido.
Thank you so much. My name is Chido Marehwa, and I'm coming from the field of food. I'm a food tech, and this journey for energy started recently with Ngoana coming to our factory. She's helping us with energy efficiency. And I actually got interested especially when she trained us. And, you know, to see where you can save energy. And it was like a wow to our company. We saved, if she can give a testimony, we actually saved quite a lot up to now. And we are still in a journey. So in the space of energy, I'm quite new. And it's really very interesting. That's why you even see me coming to the conference. I'm expecting to learn more and to be part of the journey going forward, also with my company. And as a woman, in my field anyway, it's not really a male-dominated. You can see quite a lot of females in there. And like in my company, I actually run the food safety and the quality department. And I must say that I think from a team of 20 people, I only have one male. And I'm so biased anyway. And even in a social space, I've got a passion of empowering women. I don't want to see women in a disadvantaged state and not empowered. So it's my passion to find women and develop them in a space that they can actually grow in a corporate ladder, give them skills and all. So I would love to be part of the journey with the NCPC. And I believe I'm going to do more trainings in terms of trying to be part of it. And I've seen that is very interesting. And even in when she gave us the training, I'm even using some of the things at my home to save energy, you know. So it's it's something very interesting that now I'm very aware, even if when I'm buying equipment, a washing machine, I check such things in terms of how consumption of energy, etc. So from the food background, I'm getting interested in this field, which is quite interesting for me. And I believe I'm also going to empower so many women because I've got a platform where I can get reach to so many women. So I believe the journey will be interesting and I'll bring more women on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Chido. I would say from the many companies that I've interacted with over the years, Chido's company has been, I think, number one, just in terms of women in leadership position in different departments within a plant. From the production manager is a female. The environmental health and safety and quality portfolio is led by a female. The HR is a female. So you have very key strategic positions within the company that is held by females. And I think maybe one time we must get the director to testify to just the power that the female leadership within her organization has brought, because I've just been blown away. So thanks, Chido, for being here. We've got 3 more delegates to introduce themselves. Oh, Petro. Okay. We've got 2 more in the room, and then after that, we'll go back to the online meeting, and then we'll start chatting. All right. Over to you. Yeah. Oh, we just introducing yourself, a little bit of your background, your story, any challenges, any highlights. What got you here?
Oh, what got me here? Okay. My name is Mudiehi Mulibatsi. I'm a geomatics professional. I'm quite old. I've been in the profession for probably 30 years. I graduated from UCT in 1994. So I've worked in ESCOM, like I said, with Ndibuho. I've been all over, I must say, everywhere. I wanted to see how good this profession is. But what got me interested in NCPC since Ndibuho started working here was that my interest is in sustainable development. And I look at the way that we are doing development on the continent, and it's not sustainable. But also, if we are talking about economic growth, then in a sustainable way, you've got 3 or 4 things that you need to look at. Your water must be accessible, and it must be affordable. You must have energy, it must be accessible and affordable. You must have digital technology, communication, it must be affordable and accessible. Without those 3, and then it's funding. Without those 4 things, you can never have economic growth, because the economy today is moving to more towards the digital economy, and it's not going to create a lot number of jobs. So meaning you need to have more people creating businesses, so that then you can get the economy growing and some jobs alongside that. So if we are not going to get those things right, we are totally disabling SMMEs to venture into any space of becoming big business owners. So that's my interest in these kinds of spaces. So my biggest interest is development. Then I look at policy. So I've been involved recently with the Council for Built Environment, where we were participating in the National Infrastructure Plan, Vision 2050. And we had a lot of fights. We were unhappy with the way it's conceptualized. But what we tried to do in there was to unpack that, to say, where is gender in this whole thing? Because it's not clearly written that women will be catered for. The plan is written in the same way as the reconstruction and recovery plan that came after COVID. There's a lot of activities in that plan. It's a good plan, but it's not talking to the real issues, to women, to funding. It's a frustration, because then you read it and you say, how do you get to enlighten the other women to participate? These are opportunities. These things are not going to be done by government. They're going to be done by industry. They're going to be done by professionals. They're going to be done by technologists. And if the technologists and those people cannot find themselves in that plan, it's not catering for them. It's creating a red tape and blockages all the way. Then we will be back to where the economy is not growing, and there's frustration in the country, and we keep on saying and dealing with the same issues. We come up with the best plans. We never get to implement, because when it comes to implementation, we never think things through when we create the plan, when we create legislation. That is a serious problem in the country. So those are the things that I've been involved in, to say we've got to change. So when my sister was saying there's this beautiful strategy they are coming up with for the energy, I'm saying the National Infrastructure Plan, it has to find this, what she's doing must find its expression in there. It must talk to that. It must go, you must go, my sister, and say, in this plan, what is the role of women? I am dealing with women in energy. You are talking about renewable energies because the national infrastructure plan has got 4 legs where the government is saying these are the legs that we are looking at to resuscitate the economy. They are looking at energy. They are looking at water. They are looking at transport and freight. They are looking at digital communication. All those things, they need energy. Where are the women? There is nothing in there. And when you try to look at the how it's going to be unpacked, how it's going to be implemented, there's blockages all the way. There's no woman, I promise you, very few will find themselves being able to participate in that vision 2050. Meaning for 50 years, women will still be locked outside. That is just not right. That is just not right. It has to change. And it can only change when we support what she's doing. We network with you. We take ownership of the space. You see, the problem in this country with all of us is that we have given our power, our responsibility to politicians. What the politicians' job is, and they do it very well in this country, is to go and pass legislation in parliament. In this country, our politicians, they outperform themselves. If you look at our legislative framework, it's the best. It has been declared that by many countries, it's the best. When you look at the strategies that this government comes up, best. Implementation, bad. We are not implementing our strategies properly. So we have now refused ourselves, as the people sitting here, we are not taking ownership. We want politicians to guide us on implementation. We are technocrats. We know what to do. The legislation is there. It enables us to do what we need to do. But we are not even talking to each other. We are not learning from others who have already done these things. It's time that we regroup and we stop complaining. This is our country. It's not a politician's country. Because when we suffer, we all suffer. And you can't go to a politician and say, I'm suffering, I'm in poverty because you didn't do. He'll say, but I gave you the opportunity, I gave you the legislation. That said, this is how you should be doing things. Why didn't you do that? You don't come to me. But we have abdicated that responsibility to politicians. It's time that we reclaim ownership of the development in a sustainable manner of this country. And if women are not in the heart of it, it's going to be like a rod. Because you can't expect that men don't carry a child for 9 months to understand what it takes for you to give birth to a life. But a mother understands that. So when you are doing implementation of projects, you look at them 360 degrees, including the very gentleman who is your husband. You take care of his needs. But as long as women are missing in action, nothing is going to happen positively for this country and for this continent. Development is supposed to be spearheaded by women if we want to see this country and this continent become sustainable in terms of development. That's what I do. That's the fight that I'm fighting. And I'm hoping that as women, we can really start taking ownership of our space and stop saying men are not giving it to us. I don't think if I was a man, I would give it to you. Why the hell should I worry about you? Go and get it.
Oh, my dear.
I mean, why the hell should I?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What do I say to that? I mean, she's raising a very critical point of how do we go back and be active citizens and start defining what we want. And I think in this session specifically, that is what we're trying to do as the NCPC, as UNIDO, as the DTIC. We want to build from the ground up. And we want you to give us the mandate of what support do you need. And as government agencies, we will take that and see then how do we action that so that we close, we narrow this gap between what the ambition is on the floor and how we actually achieve that. And I think we're in the position, given our mandate as the NCPC at the DTIC, we're in the position to be your voice at those levels and seeing how do we start representing your actual needs and not just assuming that this is what you need, but hearing that from you so that we
in the programs that we structure and deliver, it's in response to what the real needs are for you in this field, instead of what our wishes are. Okay. Hi, Nolene.
I'm Nolene Jorgensen. The lady in front of me said she was a bit old, but my journey started in 1980. So I'm not going to say that I'm old. I'm going to say I'm young with many, many years of experience. Okay. So we were asked to talk about our journey, our challenges, and our contribution. So my journey started in 1980, and you ladies will be pleased to know there's been a lot of progress. I applied for a bursary as a chemical engineer. I got to the final interviews with two very big, well-known companies in South Africa, and both of them said, "Why do I want to be an engineer?" One company actually had the audacity to say to me that you wouldn't be an investment to the industry. Are you planning to get married and have children one day? I mean, I was 16 years old. Someone asked me, am I going to have children one day? And I said, I don't know, maybe. So that's where my journey started. So I was very disappointed to not get an engineering bursary. And my mother, with her wisdom, said, do study teaching, you'll always have something to fall back on. That was the era that I grew up in. Universities were white, engineering science faculties were male-dominated. I had no option. We didn't have the finances to go to varsity, so I majored in chemistry. I studied chemistry on the pretenses of becoming a science teacher, chemistry and maths. I had no intention of becoming a teacher, but I did end up teaching quite a lot. And I'm sure I've taught some of our politicians, because in the 82s, there were all of the riots in the Ciskei. And as a student, I started my degree in Cape Town, finished in PE. We used to go through to PEDI, and I taught maths and science in PEDI to matrics. So that was where I started. And I ended up having to do some teaching. I was very pleased to leave and go back into industry. And my first job, I applied for a chemist in a cement industry, and I was told in the interview, I'm sorry, well, actually before I got an interview, when I phoned, because I'd heard there was a vacancy. When I phoned and applied for the job, the HR manager said to me, I'm sorry, but we're not looking for a woman, we're looking for a chemist. So that was where I started. And, that was then 1989, and I told the guy in no uncertain terms that it was 1989, and I will quote you publicly if you do not give me the opportunity of an interview. So I got my first interview, and then I was actually called back for a second interview, but the general manager, he was forced to see me by the HR guy and the chemist, and the QA, and they interviewed me, but then head office had to approve the appointment, and they would not even speak to a woman because they want a chemist, they don't want a woman. Needless to say, after about 4 interviews and the group guy was retiring, I actually was appointed, and I had a very successful career in the cement industry for 14 years. Another part of the journey, in 1998, I went to an international cement conference in Denmark and Thailand. It was the first time they'd ever had a woman at this international cement production seminar. So they brought one of the salespeople there so that I wouldn't be the only woman out of 42 countries represented. It was a very interesting journey. I don't need to speak about the softer issues that go around being a woman in a male-dominated industry. But I worked as a cement chemist for several years. I worked on very interesting projects, secondary materials, where I worked on waste to energy, and also ended up working on waste as raw material substitutes. And my final position in the cement industry was a head office position. And it was another difference that we faced, is that it was a family decision. The company did let me stay in Port Elizabeth, although I worked for head office. And it was a family decision then to actually leave the corporate because I was traveling. I was traveling a lot and had young children. So then I joined my father-in-law's company, where I went into printing and packaging. Now it's a completely different sector, also in the food sector, so ended up doing a lot there. But my passion's always been energy. While I was in the cement industry, I also represented the tire-derived fuel users, and we worked on the legislation to use waste tires. Very sad that some of the projects I worked on more than 20 years ago, that work that I actually did, that we ran in the factories, are still not running today. Not because the technology is not there, not because it's just because people don't seem to have the will to carry them through. So that's very sad. So I've obviously got a 14-year-old threshold because I spent 14 years in cement, I spent 14 years in printing and packaging, and then in 2016 I embarked on my own consultancy. And yeah, some of the things that we as women, I think, can contribute and benefit, despite me driving my family mad with efficiency and recycling and sustainability. I have a son who's a CA who's now moved into the sustainability space, working on sustainability. So some of the things we do as women and mothers, it does rub off on our family, and they inherit that just by the way we conduct ourselves and do things. The other area where us as women, I think talking about implementation, that's very important, and really important that Ilana mentioned that we don't sell ourselves well enough. And I think, yeah, I've been victim of that as well. Underpricing, underselling myself. And yes, we do need the support to do that. And we do need to network and work together. One of the things that I do, women can collaborate very well. And I don't think as SMMEs or on our own that we're doing enough of that. Yes, we can. We should stand together. We should not be scared of competition. We should work on, I think there's an opportunity for us to collaborate. I'm a very strong systems person. I'm a CMVP, measurement and verification, and I've done my EPCs, but I'm more working on the systems and compliance side. So helping, I do the different management systems and with a technical background. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for women to collaborate, to do projects that as a one-man show, I'm not going to go and apply for a tender to do something that I don't have the capacity to fulfill. But as a group of competent women, we can work together. But I'm very wary of making sure that we all have the right competence so that we've got the job because we're the best person for it, not because we've got it as a woman.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You just reminded me of something I went through my first, I think I was a trainee, my very, very first job, and the manufacturing director at my company. And this didn't come from, it seemed like it's not coming from a malicious place. It's very sweet, very warm. He pulled me to the side and it's like, hey, come on. Why do you want to do all this rough work? Why don't you just become a teacher? Why do you want to make yourself suffer? And it left me puzzled. I was like 19 at the time, excited out of university. I'm in a chemical plant. I want to apply what I've learned. And this man who's my big boss, I would say maybe out of fatherly concern, is like, why? Why do you want to spend nights in a chemical plant inhaling fumes? And I think just your story just reminded me of that experience, that sometimes maybe men don't know better how to support us. And it ties to what Mudiye was saying, that perhaps we need to be our own advocates and push more for what we want instead of waiting for them to come and say, let me make you an engineer. He wanted to make me a teacher. So that's food. He was supportive. Yes, he was supportive, but yeah. Yeah, so I think advocating for ourselves is going to really play a big role in moving closer to where we want to be. And I also like what Nolene said around collaboration and sharing information. I remember just to share a story of it was in TV, the Americas, and there's one lady who was sharing her story that when she landed a job, it was a talk show type of environment. One of the ladies who worked on a panel pulled her to the side and say, "This is how much I'm getting out of my contract. When you negotiate, because every presenter negotiate their own contract. When you negotiate, ask for these things because this is what I got." And you can imagine just how empowering that is. You're coming into a new field. Maybe you don't even have information of what to benchmark yourself against in terms of what you should ask for. And if she didn't have that woman come in and say, and being transparent and say, "You are new in the field. This has been my experience. This is where I am. These are some of the points that you need to bring forward as you negotiate for a better remuneration for yourself." I think that speaks to that issue of collaboration that Nolene is saying, that even with tendering opportunity that's out there, if we start networking and start knowing our specific niche, I would know maybe there's a contract for MNV work. I already know that she has that expertise, and I can come and bring my expertise, and together we form a consortium. And that consortium doesn't have to be for life. It can be targeted at specific projects that we work on. So great points. Thanks for that. Hi, Tembeka. Tembeka just joined the room. For those that are online, we're just doing a round of introduction, telling a little bit of our background and story, what got us into this energy field, maybe even what you aspire for. Okay.
Hi, so I am not in the energy field, but I am a gender activist, and I was quite interested when I saw this on the agenda, and I am practically just I'm just aspiring to see how far women can go and how much we can do within different fields, especially with the science field where it's male dominated, and it's quite hard for young Black women that I work with. They don't see themselves as people who can be in certain positions. So I came here just to gather information and to be able to go back and say, hey, this is possible, you can do this. So this is basically just what I'm doing, gathering of information.
Thank you, Tembeka. And I think you play quite an important role even in this setup, because through you can be a voice of what is happening on the ground and share with us what they tell you the barriers are in this field, and vice versa. You become a link then from information that flows from us to the different constituents that you interact with. So I'm very happy that you're here. All right, we've finished all the round of introductions in the room. Let's just go online. I think we had one or two people that still needed to introduce themselves. I see Ursula and Divaksha. And I don't know if Peter is online. So let's start with Divaksha. Just a brief introduction, a bit of your personal journey in this field. Yes, I can.
Okay. It's actually quite nice to listen to everyone there. And it's actually a pity that I'm not there personally. Right? There's a background, so I'm just going to continue. I'm sure you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear. Can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so I can't see who's actually around the room, but let me just reintroduce who I am. So my name is Divaksha Maraj. I'm the managing director of Ikigai Engineering. We are electrical and energy consultants. I've been in the industry, well, the consultancy started 4 years ago, which oddly enough came out of me being in a very toxic situation. But I've been in industry for the last 14 years, both practicing as an electrical energy an engineer, and in the last 10 years as an energy engineer. So have been through working in different industries and understanding the environments of working in a so-called male-dominated field. And even in university, one of two girls in the heavy current class. So understanding fully what the challenges and the conflicts that we as ladies are put in on a daily basis, and then becoming sort of immune to that and just working through. For me, it's about knowledge and not about what gender we are. But 4 years ago, I was put into a situation where my managing director of the company, an international company, was being very, very, not even like out there being destructive towards me, but just very subtly being forward. And knowing how men react and how I should behave around them, I didn't take it too hard till it got a little bit more serious with WhatsApps and for calls and that sort of thing. And I casually showed it to one of the other guys whom at one of the breaks they were outside smoking, and I stopped by and I said to him, I'm a bit uncomfortable with some of these messages. How would you perceive this as a man? And he said, and he laughed and he said to me, well, you are one of the statistics now. So I asked him, what do you mean? So apparently this gentleman, before he came into the position that he was using his rights and basically pushing himself a lot harder onto the women in the company than he was with me. And even suppliers that were coming in, like literally closing the door, pushing them against the wall, that sort of behavior. And that was happening for the last 6 years. There were about 15 ladies by the time I counted that this happened to. And I said to the ladies that were in the office, why have you all not said anything about this? And they said, well, we did. And the previous managing director basically swept it under the carpet. And for the sake of our jobs, we did not want to pursue it. You have a degree. We don't. You can go ahead. So I said to them, but it's not even about the fact that I have a degree. It's about the fact that we are ladies and we have rights. And you are going through this on a daily basis and you're keeping quiet about it. And it's affecting our work, because he then started to look at my productivity at work and started adding in more pressure on me in terms of that. And then came to a stage where HR was calling me in about my work, performance appraisals, and sort of using that now because I was pushing back. So I said no. I actually don't even know what came over me, and I filed a grievance. The international company didn't even have anything in place for something like this, and they quickly tried to cover up, and they suspended me for 3 months. So I was sitting at home trying to figure out exactly what did I do wrong in this whole thing. And amidst all of that, I decided then I was not going to go back. I was going to resign. And then I said, I'll start something on my own. I had a good head on my shoulders. I had qualifications to consult. I'll do that till I find another job. And here, 4.5 years later, I'm still running the consultancy and we're growing. And I've become a very big advocate for gender equality and pushing females in the industry. But to go back to what ended up happening, they then went into legal with me via CCMA, then took it out of CCMA and said they would resolve it in-house. They then said they went through a series of investigations. They intimidated all the ladies that we put forward as names for court. The legal system in South Africa is not on our side. I had to pay a massive amount of money. Another massive amount of money was due just to book court and get a lawyer. And my husband said to me, listen, we do not have that money to go forward. Just drop your case. So I had to drop my case. But at the back of my mind, I knew that what I was doing was wrong. He needed to be made an example of to what he did. The ladies that they intimidated, they eventually fired. Then a month later, they fired him. So they did it very strategically. They knew that I was going to resign. They knew that the ladies would talk, so they fired them. And but they dismissed them in a way that they said that it's economic downturn and they were restructuring. But those specific ladies then came out, although they were there for longer than the people that still remained. So you could see it was very strategic. And then eventually they fired him. with no reason, obviously. But I mean, it was a great company to work in. I enjoyed working there. So a bit of me is a little bit disgruntled because I could have made something out of my career. But if I didn't have that situation, I wouldn't be consulting on my own. I wouldn't become the advocate that I am for female equality and getting ladies more involved and standing out and speaking. So based on that, I do a number of mentoring initiatives for the women's group and whoever it is that wants me to speak out and talk. I sit on the DMRE's Gender Ministry Advisory Council. I think I'm the only SMME there. It's only because I talk, I speak out. I was restricted on NDAs on the situation, but it's long past now. And I want people to be aware that you cannot treat us, whether we have a degree or not, any different from my male counterpart, or think that you can do it and get away with it. Yeah. So that's me.
Thank you, Devashka. And firstly, I must say I'm really, really, really sorry that you went through that experience, but equally proud that out of that hardship, you took something hard and you're now using it to not only develop and empower yourself in this energy space, but also to pull other women with you. And you raise a really critical point of the the barriers that women face in reporting injustices that they experience in the workplace. And naturally, they fear that I will lose my job. And for women, in most cases, then that means a lot of things. You're thinking about your children. You're thinking about what opportunities am I going to get. So just even at a mental space, what does it mean for women to be in this space of energy, and how empowered do they feel that they've got options? If there is mistreatment and injustice, they have options to try new things. And I think that's one of the barriers that we're going to unpack as we move into the second set of discussion. Welcome and thank you. We have, so that was Devashka. We have Ashla, and in the room we just have one delegate walk in. So those will be the last two to introduce themselves, and then we can start going into a bit more detailed discussion around what you are tasking us to take back to UNIDO, to take back to NCPC and the DTIC in terms of the type of support and programs you'd like us to assist with. So online, can I have Ashla take the floor?
Hi, hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ursula Wellman. I work at the moment for the Atlantis Special Economic Zone. It is a green technologies manufacturing SEZ in Atlantis, and I look after skills, enterprise, and community or community integration or development. So I have a keen interest in this topic. Luckily, no personal experience similar to Daksha yet, and I'd like to think that they will stay like that. But I'm really hoping to learn from today's session, because I think in a manufacturing world, which is still quite a patriarchal society in Atlantis, or the surrounding communities, I can only imagine that these types of incidents happen quite frequently. And would obviously like to understand and learn from you all as to what it is that we can put in place, and that these types of things or occurrences don't happen, and that we can equip and empower women to really step into their own power. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Ursula. I had a pleasure of meeting Ursula for the first time 2 weeks ago. So nice to see you, Ursula. It's good to have you here. And maybe as we go through the session, you can also share the community engagement work that you're doing down in Atlantis, which is quite powerful. And I'm just thinking of the example of the project you showed us, where it's led by a female. So I'm really, really proud of the work that you're doing. Lastly, we have Mahlodi. Okay, Mahlodi, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Mahlodi Mulapo, an industrial application intern at the Platinum Incubator. I'd say I'm new into the space because I just recently graduated and doing an internship. So, what I would like to see is more mentorship for the upcoming, like myself, to um, be confident in being in a woman in the industrial space. Be comfortable in being a woman in a male dominating space, and also be able to um, not go through similar experiences as other women have, and know how to handle them and how to go about them. That's what I would like to see, and I would say I haven't experienced that myself. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Matlodi. I mean, it's so encouraging that we have such diversity of experiences in this room. We've got women like Matlodi who are at the beginning stages of their career. Then we've got seasoned women who have decades long of experience that we can learn from and get that coaching and mentorship, which is quite valuable. And earlier on, and even in our discussions, Petra, Elena, and myself, we've already identified the need to have mentorship and maybe even in a formalized structure so that Matlodi in her early years in her career, she can link up with Nolene, for example, and start learning from her the pitfalls to avoid, the opportunities that are there. So I know that one of the things that you're tasking us to do is to get this network or mentorship going. And the good thing is that in some of this initiative, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are already initiatives that exist with what Winnie has shared that doing at the DOE. It's a matter of saying, how do we support and elevate those platforms so that more women are aware of it? We put more resources to improve them where we need to. So we don't scatter our resources. We can concentrate them on a platform that has already been built. It has momentum already. It's a matter of using it and elevating it to where we want to go. So in this second, Winnie want to say something?
Okay, sorry, before we move on, I am so happy that, as you indicated, we've got wisdom of, let me say, of information in the house. And also we are learning, you learn every day. So it's one thing that we were missing during COVID. But as women, we also need to be careful. I think it was mentioned, I can't remember if it's also said that the issue of not empowering ourselves. The other lady once even said that I also get emotional myself after delivering something, and then women will say, okay, Winnie, you have given us opportunities. What is it that is there for women? But of course, sometimes you just give the baseline information or, the standard information so that you can, somebody can learn and be able to do something about that information. But sometimes as women, we also need to learn to do things for ourselves, be strong, do research, and yes, and research, and so that you can learn more. Because the other lady once even said that the way we are so, I don't want to say it, but we also like to even outsource our own responsibility. She was mentioning it during it was one of those sessions, but she was saying that there will be an advert out, RFP, then they must apply. Instead of, them applying and learning about the documentation and everything, they give information, they give everything outsourced to a guy. Just an example. I'm just trying to give information so that we can all learn out of it. Give it to somebody, and somebody will apply for you and also apply for himself. what would happen there? Obviously, the guy will apply for himself and put everything there. And for your application, you will put everything but leave something else that is very important. So the tender will be, he will be able to get the tender from himself and not for you. So that is one thing that is also important. And also when we apply as women, you find that the experience also taught us that we also like for example, overcharge because you are a woman. You'll think that, because you are a woman-owned company or you are a woman entrepreneur, you charge very high thinking that they will bend the rules just to cover you. Let's also be honest and try to do things right and learn how to do best from those people. That is why in whatever that we do, we should not leave. I always say we should not leave men behind. As much as he's saying that you are saying that he's saying that you must go and do teaching, and maybe you were supposed to say, I'll go and do teaching and then I'll do the engineering part, so that you can see how best to match together, because we all need to match together. So in whatever that we do, remember, all this that we are doing, we say women empowerment, but what is the end goal? Is gender equality. So, and we cannot shy away from the fact that men have been there. They have got experiences, they've got everything that we need. So we can also use it to our advantage so that we can be able to move forward. Let's make sure that we also do that. And then the other thing that I also wanted, I highlighted, okay, the push. I like what Divaksha said, that sometimes you will need that push so that you can do something. So sometimes it's not all bad. And one thing that Divaksha also forgot to say is she's also an advocate for young girls. She's doing very well in terms of empowering young girls from kids to the high school going kids. So, and then with regard to what Elena has indicated, the gender global women network, I'm part of it. And maybe one thing that I have to say together with Divaksha, as a woman myself, I also empower myself. Nobody took me through to say, I must go through, I must apply for this. I have done that myself through research and everything. I'm saying this so that you can know that sometimes you'll think that I'm getting there because I'm working for the department or I'm known. Sometimes you have to do things for yourself to be somewhere. So I'm part of the Global Women Network as a mentee together with Divaksha. And I was representing South Africa 2 weeks back in Germany. So I was telling Elena that she must give regards to the president, Christine Linz. And then I think together with her, we will take it forward so that we can also advocate for more participation in South Africa. Not only in terms of the mentorship program, they also have the expert pool. We have people like Wo Faith, everyone else, the wisdom, that side, that can also be able to be register and be part of the pool where we assist other women in terms of information and everything. So let's go out. It's called Global Women Network, GWNet, for energy, just an energy transition. So if you can still start to Google and check when is the next intake and how do you register as a part of the expert pool. So together, I think we will take it together and try to advocate like we are already there. So it's one thing that also we need to check. And then the other thing is the link. Okay, maybe some of the things we'll discuss when we go to the second part, when we indicate our needs to UNIDO. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm also not from the energy side. I joined the energy sector in 2014. So I learn. I'm also learning about energy, but it's an interesting field that I fell in love with. When I was joining, I didn't know that there's much capacity, much in thing that information that I can learn. So I fell in love and I'm enjoying. I keep on capacitating myself, and then I always like to take women with me wherever I go as an advocate and gender expert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing those perspectives. As Winnie said, it for us to get to where we desire, it's going to be a combination of intentional proactiveness on our part, where, like Winnie says, we go out, look for the opportunities, empower ourselves with knowledge. That has to be mixed with bringing men on board, because the reality is they are in the decision-making positions. We've seen with the data that was shared in the morning, just in terms of at the corporate space, how a lot of your CEO, your directors are still male. So in a way, we can't have only women in the room to effect the change that we need. Slowly, we need to be bringing them on board. And I once read somewhere that it was a paper about different, what makes a female different in terms of leadership, what makes a female different to a male. And the article said, what is unique about females is how our leadership style is about influence. That's where our unique niche is. And I think Faith earlier was talking about how in the early stages of her career, she was trying to be more male, right? And maybe trying to, you know how the male style of leadership is. We've all been exposed to. But perhaps it's, as we try and explore this space, it's about us going back and tapping into what is inherently our qualities. And that's about influence. And sometimes it's gentle influence. Doesn't have to be traditionally loud, but we have that unique gift that our Creator has given us to strategically influence. So it's about now positioning ourselves to have the right ear listen to what we want to say, and through our unique style of influencing change or influencing male to change perspective, I think we can see some change in this space. And also to what the point that Winnie mentioned around the points around procurement and the accessing tenders, and how sometimes she has observed that women maybe they price themselves out of the market. And having this network and talking to one another, it's going to also help in that. So instead of you sitting in the corner, deciding for yourself what you think the market price for your service should be, maybe you pick up a call and talk to Chido and say, what's been your experience? What is the general ballpark figure for this type of services or this type of products? That's the only way we start not only empowering ourselves with knowledge of what will make us competitive, it also foster that relationship and partnership that we strongly need. Okay, so now this second part of our session, we want you to now give us a mandate. We already, just from you sharing what you need, we already made mental notes of some of the activities that we need to go back and do. Petra mentioned earlier on that we're working on putting together I don't know what we will call it, maybe a gender mainstream emerge, and we'll see what we call this workshop conference event. But we're planning something for the month of August, where hopefully by then, some of these actions that you're tasking us, we would have completed those, and we give feedback about these activities that we've already started to talk about. So as she said, we're going to be in communication with you about this event, and we will give time also in that event to also unpack the study that Carmen did, unpack it a little bit more, and go into what does it actually mean for us as individual women. So for this session, I would like us to then talk about, and if possible, you can give feedback in a very personalized manner. Think about your own life, your own career. Don't try and generalize from what is happening out there. Just think about your own life and where you are. Maybe put thoughts on what you aspire, what your ambition is. Think about the gap that exists, and then tell us, what do you need from the different instruments, through UNIDO, through the DTIC, through Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy, to support you to move from where you currently are at to where your target is, and see how we can help you bridge that gap even closer. If we have time at the end of the session, I think we have internet connectivity. I'll ask Elena to log on to one of the websites and just at a very, very short, high level, just give you a touch and feel of what the Global Women Network, GW, what is it? GW, yeah, GWNet looks like. So you're familiar with the platform, and we're going to share the links for it. So as you leave this conference, you have that. You can register yourself and start accessing this support instruments. Okay, who wants to begin? I am going to, when I call on or when I engage, I'm not picking on you. It's just to get the discussions going. But I'm really interested in hearing from the advocacy work that you do. What are you hearing on the ground? What do the young females that you work with need from either a policy perspective, maybe even practical perspective, that you think the NCPC or the Department of Trade Industry, the Energy Department, can do to assist with the young women that you work with?
So I'm going to be honest, I was not prepared to come here, but as I mentioned earlier, I saw on the agenda that there is a gender mainstream discussion, and I thought this is a best time it's a learning opportunity, and it's the best time to network and probably find means to engage and create a platform for women in the township to be able to then be the line of information between myself and those young women. Because when we talk to young women in the township, there's also that sense of inferiority when we speak on the science sector in general, and you ask a young Black woman if they would be interested in studying science or in working for the science fraternity, and they always have that insecurity that comes up, and it's so sad because you look at their potential, and you realize that there's so much that can be done, there's so much that they can do, but because there are no spaces or avenues that expose them to women that are doing great things in those spaces. For example, where I stay, we don't have a woman who works in the ESCOM, for example, but we have a couple of men who work at ESCOM, and it always looks like something that is far-fetched for a young Black woman to then be in those spaces. So it feels like you said, teaching then feels like, okay, it's a safer option, maybe nursing, but you look at that person's potential and you're like, you could do well, and you have the ideas, you have the skill, you don't have the connections, you don't have the information, but with the right nudge in the right direction, then you could do well. So what we do is we try and meet those needs, and it's quite hard for small organizations to also present ourselves in certain spaces because we do not have the financial means to also expose those young women and take them from. I'm from Togoza in the East End, so it's also quite financially impossible to take those young women out of my pocket to take them here and to say, okay, come and see what women are doing and how it's possible for women such as yourselves to do this. For myself, for instance, I also wanted to be in the science uh, fraternity, but my grandmother told me that it's not going to work. Like even at home, we have those that insecurities from our parents. She told me it's not going to work. What happens when they don't hire you? What happens if it's hard and you don't pass? And it was quite confusing because I was doing science at school and I thought I can if someone is doing it, if a boy at school gets a bursary and is doing it, then why can't I? And if we're able to compete at the same level in class, then why can I not do it at the varsity level and continue to do it in the professional level? But it's those conversations that we have with young Black women, because we are from the township and it's predominantly filled with young Black women who have lost all hope in getting into the science fraternity. Out of 10, maybe one can make it and the rest have to choose something else.
Thanks, Temega, for sharing that. Really disheartening, but I always try to take very optimistic look at this. It's like, what did Ilse say in the morning? It always starts with crazy until it's normalized. So I think in the interest of making this session more productive from us, walking out of it feeling like we have some solutions on the table, to what Temega is saying and the work that she's doing, Devashka, if you're online, I know you work in the space of working with young women. Is there an opportunity or room at all with the work that you're doing and what Devashka is doing to link up and, I don't know, share ideas between what you've been doing, what she's been doing, and if there could be synergies for collaborative work there? Devashka, without putting you on the spot, she's still online. I can't see. If she's not online, we can take it offline and see. As Winnie mentioned, Devashka does a lot of work around coaching and training to some extent for young females. So I think it will be a good network to have, so you can start sharing ideas, and maybe there could be opportunities to partner and work with one another. The point that you're raising about how limited sometimes the resources are, and it ties into what Mudiehi was saying about the importance of the digital economy. If this group of young women that she's working with in the township had access to the internet and data, they could stream this session. She didn't have to transport them all the way from Tokoza to here. So you see how all of these things are interconnected. And perhaps all it needed was a few women donating maybe 500 rand to buy unlimited data. And you get the women in a room and they watch the proceedings of this conference for free. And that could have a big impact, because sometimes what we need is just visibility. And I think you're raising, I'm just thinking as an idea going forward. We missed an opportunity with this one, but now that we know what you're doing on the ground, perhaps in other opportunities, it doesn't necessarily have to be the energy efficiency NCPC work. There are other conferences that happens in the field. We spoke about the Global Network for Women. If there are opportunities that could be accessed online. Maybe amongst even ourselves, if I have an extra 100 Rand, I could maybe donate it and you have unlimited data and you get your group of young girls to come and watch a session. Sometimes the change that we need to do, it doesn't necessarily require big organizations with institutional policies. Maybe us, as we start forming this alumni of women, we can start seeing the change that we can make. And sometimes I wouldn't have thought that maybe a 500 Rand, for example, Rain Network, there's a package for $4.99. You get unlimited 5G. No, it's unlimited 4G. I wouldn't have known that maybe if I just take 400 Rand, give it to you to buy unlimited data, you can impact the lives of 10 or 20 girls in the township for them to watch that session. So I'm bringing all this just to say sometimes the solutions are simple enough for us to start doing. Sometimes the change is small. Okay? We've got a point on the floor, Lucia.
Just to add on that, there's something called giving back. Like she was saying that in the township, there's a lot of men who are working at ESCOM and you don't know any woman who works there. It's very, I think, imperative that women, perhaps who in the sciences, who are perhaps now in a position where they can speak up and have information, to actually, if there's like small sessions in the township, for them to come to be invited and say, I grew up in Soweto, and it's easier for them to relate to that person because you will use points that they can relate to and tell them that, I used to buy in this puzzle shop. I used to go to the library at Togo's or whatever. So seeing someone who was coming from that township, someone who has experienced that environment, then they can put themselves in the position that, so it is possible. I don't need to be coming from Senton or wherever for me to actually be in that position. So familiar faces sometimes do make a lot of impact. So, yeah.
Thanks for that input, Lucia.
What I want to add is that as the department, we do have community outreach programs wherein the department is coordinating professionals or from the sector to come and give career guidance to the learners that are still at an early age, even before they go to grade 10 to choose subjects, so that maybe they choose energy as a career, they take energy as a career of choice. And in those kind of sessions, we normally do it in rural areas, in townships, because we are looking at the fact that that's where there is those that are previously disadvantaged. And as such, we have things like your school energy day, wherein they share information in terms of different career opportunities that are there in the energy sector, and how the learners can what is it that they need to do for them to take the energy or the mining as a career of choice. And in that regard, you'll find that the people from the industry, they even come with the forms for bursaries to encourage those learners to take career as energy or mining as a career of choice. And we do have what we call Learners Focus Week. We encourage girl children to join the program. We are doing it in partnership with the Department of Education. That's where learners are encouraged or are requested to come up with the programs or a project or a model that they develop out of the challenge that they have identified in their own community or in the energy sector in particular. And they come and present the program to us so that they get encouraged to say there is these issues, or there is these challenges or community problems that they can come up with a solution at an early age. So that in itself, it encouraged the learners to also get bursaries, because there are sessions that we facilitate. At that session is a week session. That's where they get to get the information about the sector itself, different careers within the sector, and they get an opportunity to go to the site to see what is happening, and see other women that are able to do the very same job that they are encouraging. And in most cases, sometimes we even in the companies themselves, they take some of the learners from the same community to say these are the learners that benefited from this program, and maybe they are still on internship or they are at other levels. They will explain, I'm from the very same community, I did science and maths, and I got a bursary from this company, and I went to study, I came back, they took me for internship, and now I have completed my internship, and this is where I am. Sometimes they even taken overseas. So that's kind of a way that they can be encouraged to say, this thing can happen in our community, and we have opportunities of the companies that are around us that can give us those opportunities or empower us to be better people, or to go into the career that we thought we will never do.
Thank you for that. And I'm really loving this, because as you are explaining, I'm already seeing solution from what she shared, and it's so clear to me that the two of you need to link up so that she understand what opportunity exists that can be under that umbrella of the network that we're running at DMRE, and also to check if she is, since she's in a space where she organizes on the ground, if she's structured and organized, can she approach the department and say, I've got 50 learners in the East Rand community. Can you help me bring speakers, so people that can come and participate in this learner outreach, and then you do a little event for the area where she is, which is the East Rand. So I'm already seeing, I don't know if I'm the only one who's seeing solutions, but I'm already seeing that. I've got Nolene, then I'll come to you.
Thank you. Just want to add to some of the comments that we made. I'm from the Eastern Cape. I'm from Port Elizabeth, Gqeberha, and across the border to the Western Cape, Knysna. And small towns like that, and even Gqeberha being a smallish place, we don't often get some of the NCPC events do come there. But yes, there are online schools that provide, and also the government schooling. A lot of the lectures and a lot of the websites were data free. So that's something that would be great if NCPC could also facilitate, that people can access the information on the NCPC website without using data. Because I know a lot of our school systems, our government school systems, that is available. So that would be one area that I would like to, that I think could add value. The other area that I think is also important, and Devaksha is the only person that referred to it, is that embracing your femininity. A lot of women feel that you need to compete with men on men's terms. No, we don't. We're far more powerful if we compete on our own terms. In any relationship, yes, we can be the neck and turn the man's head wherever we wanted to go, but we also need to embrace our femininity. A lot of women feel, I've been in Business Women's Association and some of those environments, and a lot of women feel they need to be powerful. We are in our own way. We mustn't try and be like men. We mustn't try and compete on men's terms. I think it's important as leaders in our sectors, in our fields, even if you're just coming in as a young woman, or you've been around for decades, we need to also show our feminine side. If you look at the nutrition, like we look after our bodies, we look after our health, we look after our skin,
Nothing's monotone. You don't only eat orange vegetables. You eat orange, green, yellow. You eat your proteins. We eat the diversity. We need women, the differences that we bring to the table, to bring to that project, to bring to that sector. And we need to embrace that. We need to embrace that femininity. The PPE, the safety, is catching on slowly, so you don't have to wear ugly men's boots. And you can wear overalls that can be flattering and shirts that can be flattering. So I think that's also important. Go out there and make a name for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I saw Pumla just ordered a pair of safety shoes for us in our department, and they embellished with pink. Yeah. Do you have any comments? Okay.
I think you can all hear me, or should I speak to? Okay, all right. My sister at the back. My contribution to you is that, well, we will give you our contact details. Also, we leave in them here. But I think also further than the what NCPC is doing, or the energy space and mining. The energy space and mining here are doing. There's also other professions, so we'll give you the links if you want to encourage them to go into the accounting field. There's a serious, beautiful program done for young people by South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. I'll give you the contacts for even the people who are responsible for Gauteng, that you talk to them. They start at high school level, they groom them all the way to university, and they get them funded up to when they serve their articles. So there are those programs. Within the engineering space, there's a lot of statutory bodies that fall under the Council for Built Environment. Most of them are engineers, quantity surveyors, etc. So they run these programs, and you will organize. You will tell them they can bring funding for. They normally do a light lunch, kids, and some fruit and stuff. Within my profession, the instrument companies, they fund that. They bring the instruments. The kids play with the instruments and get the feel of this 3D stuff and the drones and all the crazy new technologies that we have access to. Military, talk to the military. The military enjoys doing this all the time. They will come with all the crazy gadgets, and they will make sure that it's funded for just the fruit and the light food, and they will run an exposure or an exhibition process like that. So we'll give you the contacts for that. But in terms of you've registered an NGO, NPO. You need to register. Let's get you to that. Get yourself registered, because then it becomes difficult to help you become sustainable. So that then we can come up with a plan on how you can become sustainable, so that you can do more work and become more effective and have more good impact. You have already started. What you are doing is brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that you're demonstrating that sometimes mentorship doesn't have to be formal, where you sitting and you're writing contracts of you are the mentee, I'm the mentor. Sometimes mentorship takes place in this way. You find that perhaps in your space you're going to need 5 mentors, and each one of them feed a certain they address a certain gap or a need that you have. And for me, what just happened here is an example of mentorship. So even the concept of mentorship, when we think about it, I think we shouldn't necessarily think about it in a very strict, structured, formalized way. Networking could be a platform for mentorship. So I love that. Maybe we can then now shift. So we explored the needs, and this was more at a group macro level. So maybe let's now take it a little bit into the micro space of your own personal needs. I would say, from where you are in your career, where you want to be, what barriers are you encountering, what type of support would you need from all these different entities we have in the room. Yes, you can.
Get it off my chest. Because because I've been begging to say this thing that I'm gonna say now to my sister. My sister. Yeah, to Sis Winnie. Okay. Sis Winnie, I wanted the lady from NCPC who spoke before, because I think she said government is ready and it's moving. Industry must come on board. So these policies on cleaner production and those kinds of issues, when we do embark on those processes, where we need, there's always a gap, is in terms of monitoring and evaluation, where we're making sure that those processes, NCPC has been doing very well, but they've been, they've gotten the industry. Now they are trying to get into local government, which is the biggest fear of government. And if that is not sorted, we have no country. Literally, we have no economy, literally. So they are trying to get in there. But how then do you make sure that even industry that is showing interest and they want to change, they could be selling a company, there could be new board of directors, there could be new owners of the business who may decide, we don't want this green thing, it's nonsensical, we don't want to adhere to this. How do we get a system that's going to ensure that we audit, we monitor, we evaluate, so that institutions don't fall back, that we continuously move forward with this good program that you guys are doing? So I think NCPC needs to think about that. How is it that they are going to ensure that it becomes sustainable, that it's not left to individuals, because individuals cannot always be trusted. So if the monitoring and evaluation can come through, and the auditing of whether people are doing what they have promised to do, that would be really nice, which is where we always fall short. The other thing is the funding. There's a lot of funding. The Department of Small Business Development, it has funding, but we like to have the buzzword. The buzzword is youth. You've seen everyone is talking about, because of Operation Dudula, you've seen all of a sudden there's a lot of WhatsApp messages that come, hey, we've got vacancies, but even departments, they tend to do that. So there's now a lot of focus on funding youth. If you go to the Department of Small Business Development, you look at their programs, they are mostly focusing on youth. But when you do that, then you are not enabling some of the people that have already been in the industry, who have the knowledge, but they do not have the funds to start. Engineering space is very expensive. They don't have the funds. They could actually, what Ndi was saying in the morning, where he was talking about those guys who pull the trolley, that he's linking them, there's a middleman. Those kinds of processes, we can then escalate them to even these things that we are trying to do, where you've got the youth person who doesn't have the experience, but he's got now access to the funds. But let the funds not be only given to them. There's women who are not having the funding. If you go to SIFA is telling you, you must have a company that has run for X number of years. Where in the hell's name are you going to run a company, engineering company? You want to get into solar, you need to have money. How are you going to run it for X number of years, so that they can then eventually think you are worthy of their money? So if NCPC together with Sis Winnie can really talk to the sister departments to say, you've got to think differently about funding. If you are not going to be funding an engineer with a lot of experience, or a person who is interested in a particular space, and they can demonstrate that they understand what they are doing, and then you can put the money against that person to enable them with seed funding, then we are not going to get anywhere. So if we can really, really sort out this whole that process, that would be very, very nice. On the ICT side, the app development, there's lots of funding. You see an app is given 4 million, 5 million. There's an app that was given 30 million. When I look at that thing, I'm thinking, what is it that makes these people get 30 million? But they were given 30 million because now everyone, the buzzwords is 4IR app development. There's more seed funding in there. But on the other spaces, there's no seed funding. So how are we going to even get SMMEs growing or even established? So if we can sort out that issue. The last issue for me is that we will be talking about transformation. Women should play a space in this hardcore engineering spaces. But if we do not have a policy that says we will, when we do go on tender or send these projects on tender, this is the slice of the cake that is earmarked for women. It must be declared that this is nobody encroaches on that slice of the cake. Because if you are now having to be a woman with a small little company there, or emerging group of women come together in a consortium, and you're trying to compete against big guys, there's no way that you're going to win that one unless there's a space that is created specifically so that you can then be able to go and participate in that particular space and be given an opportunity to start growing and making it in that space. So it's policy issues, it's funding. If we could just see some traction in there, then we will be happy that it's not talk shop anymore, but it is an implementable program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ausmudieri. So my takeaway from your points, you tasking us to look into implementing something that is modeled after what we do with the industrial symbiosis space, where we become a middleman that connects women and maybe to even the corporate sector that is looking to have women fulfill certain roles within their business. Am I capturing that? Yeah. Facilitating that. Yeah. Yeah.
I am a small company. You have a big company. It's doing solar. I want to be in the solar space. I've got the understanding of the space, but I do not know where to start. I can't go and get a big job or any, even if it's municipalities. But these guys are getting it. Then they can do the symbiosis. They can get us as partner of what the government can say that as part of your points. I want to see these women, smaller woman company there, being part of your tender response, so that then we're starting to grow. Otherwise, then how are we going to ever be able to compete?
Yeah, I think that
because
that
when they ask you about experience, they'll never give you a tender. I promise you, based on your qualifications and your 30 years experience, as long as your company was registered yesterday on the National Treasury website, they look at that and say your company doesn't have experience. But it does have experience, because the experience is not the name of the registered company, it's inside of you. But because you've never had a job, you'll never be given an opportunity. You'll never be given that tender.
Yeah, very valid points, and I think it's giving us something to go back and think about what we can do in that space, and it links to, I think, the earlier question around what can we do around procurement policies to be intentional in dedicating certain opportunities for women in a way that is not too discriminatory to the rest of the population. So you're giving us something to think about. Thanks for that. I saw a hand. You can, yeah. Oh, is it not on?
Okay, thanks. So from my point, what I would like to see from the NCPC is more visibility, especially from the point of academia, because, okay, I'm a student, but then I'm only hearing about the NCPC in the space that I'm at now. And given that, okay, so I'm doing my master's in remediation, so it is industrial wastewater remediation, and I'm remediating AMD, and it's more of a waste project, because then I want to, the material that I'm remediating or the pollutants I'm remediating, I have to use them for energy generation or something like that. But then given the NCPC that it's in the energy sector, so I wanted to know what support you provide to students, because at the end of the day, I'll need to align my research to what's happening on the ground. And I think the NCPC could provide that platform for students to make sure that what's done at school aligns and talks to what's happening in our country in terms of us as well being able to contribute to energy.
Okay, thank you for that. And I totally lost track of time because I'm just enjoying this engagement. So we were supposed to finish at 3:30. We're just gonna wrap it up. And thank you so much for yes, yeah, in the next few minutes. So as Lena logs in to show you guys the platform that we're talking about for the global network, to answer your question, I think we could certainly do more work around just how we involved in that very downstream pipeline of women in this space. What the NCPC has been doing over the years is we've been running an internship program where we take recent graduates from university, we train them on RSCP methodologies, and we place them in industry for the purpose of getting exposure and learning about this field of resource efficiency. So that's one program that we've been running. And a lot of the graduates out of that program, they go on to really advance in their careers. About 3 of them went to join the NCPC. Just this month alone, I met one of the students who is now a manager at a very big chemical company, and she's doing land remediation work. To your point, so that's that. And we in the past have been working with SAFI. SAFI is the Organization for Females in Energy Efficiency, which NCPC is one of the patrons. We've been working with them. In the past, we used to do road shows where we'll go to universities and give talks about the opportunities for women in this space. So I think just in what action items come out of this is just revisiting that and being now more intentional of what we do. As we can appreciate, we have women at different paces. We have women that are just starting out, those that are in the middle field, and those are now maybe in the executive position. So I think our role will be to go back and see what activities or programs can we develop to speak to women at this stage in their career, if they're just starting out, if they're already in the middle, and those that are now in the executive and top management, and anybody in between, of course. So that's our takeaway from this session. The other point, I forgot what I wanted to say. Oh, I had another. Oh, yes. To your question, that was Ilse from the Green Desk at the Department of Trade and Industry that spoke about that point. Unfortunately, she couldn't stay for the afternoon. So we will go back and ask this question. How does the department plan to enforce this new legislation around ESG? So we'll come back and but I would imagine, to your point and your suggestion, that as the government roll out this law around ESG, obviously you're going to have companies that want to comply. So maybe there's going to then be a gap of who connects this company that want to comply to the women who are looking for opportunities. And maybe to your point, the suggestion that NCPC could play that role of connecting the two stakeholders, I think is a good one. So we'll send Ilse your question and then give answers and feedback. All right. This concludes the session. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. I hope you found it valuable, not just as us talking, but you found that there's real action items that we can go and work on. And we as a team, we aspire that in this next event that we're planning, we're going to come back and give feedback about these points that you raised in that last session. This is where we are in implementing or solving them or whatever the case. So we hope we're going to see you in the session that we have planned for the month of August.
Can I just ask, thank you very much for your participation. This really was very enlightening. Can I just ask, if you just slipped into the session and you didn't actually register, just make sure that we have your email address. Otherwise, we won't be able to communicate with you. We'll get the names of the people who registered, who was scanned at the door. But if you didn't do either of those, just talk to us so that we have your email address.
All right. Thank you. And for our fellow sisters online, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, but I will encourage you that if you have any points, comments that you want to make, please continue to make use of the chat box. These sessions are recorded. So even if we don't get to your point now, still go ahead and type it, and then we are going to revisit the recordings. And I think even the platform themselves, they're going to remain on MS Teams for quite a while. So you can still go back and access some of the responses for your questions. And with that said, that concludes this formal session. I hope you found it valuable. I really enjoyed meeting and interacting with you. So we're just going to it won't take long, maybe 2-3 minutes. We just want to show you what the Global Network for Women looks like. So you can go and access this platform. Are we winning? Not really. Yeah, that's the one.
But how can I share it? It doesn't show up.
There. All right. Okay, over to you, Elena.
Okay. So this is the global network I was talking about. So you can go here, log in, as long as you don't have a username and password. You can create one, and then you have access to all the work that they are doing, which is actually great. And it's globalwomennet.org. We share the link, and then there's this networking and advocacy and mentoring. They're doing some regional programs, and now it's this is where you can register for free, and those are the most recent news from there. So they're announcing the participants from Central Asian women in renewable energy, interviews, equal say in decision making. So it's quite they update their website quite often, so you can really stay up to date with everything that goes on around the world. And yeah, I wanted to show you the mentoring program so far. Mentorship, yeah, here it is. So you can see that they started 2018, so it's relatively fresh. And so far they had, as I said, wind program. There was the clean cooking, so they had a few wind programs. This one was very interesting. Energy storage, yeah, clean cooking, energy transition. And as you see, there's nothing about energy efficiency, so we can support them in that. So I hope that I shed a bit of a light on this program, on this initiative, and would be happy if I see you there. Thank you. Thanks very much for your inputs. It's been really interesting to follow.
Thank you very much. Juan Atari just asked me to officially close the session now. So thank you for your patience, thank you for your time, and thank you so much for your participation. It really has been very encouraging and enlightening to all of us. We will be following up as we've been promising all along. We will keep you informed of the event that we're arranging for August. We'll get your inputs into that also. So thank you very much, and please stay in touch. Please don't ignore our emails. Please remain part of this community. It's a really very powerful group, as it was illustrated today. So thank you. And thanks, Luciana.